CNN's Jake Tapper was not expecting a steel CEO to agree with President Trump's tariffs. You know that they brought this guy on to think like, no, our costs are going to rise and everything is going to go down. No, nope. In fact, this man looked directly into the camera, looked directly at Jake Tapper, and pretty much ruined his day and ruined the day of everyone there at CNN, and it was a thing of beauty. You know, the media likes to fearmonger and they like to think that the American people and American CEOs and manufacturers, that they don't want the tariffs. But that is just what they want you to believe. They want people to panic. They want people to be at their beckoning call. We know that the media is completely evil and they just got put in their place in epic fashion. So let's get into this. He also did a little media tour. He went on CBS as well. We're going to show you that clip as well. My name is Clayton Kearns from TrendingPolitics.com. Please make sure to like this video. It helps us out so much. And subscribe to the channel. We're coming out with new videos all the time and many different formats. We got deep dives coming. We got all kinds of stuff coming for you guys. So please make sure to subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. And it also helps us to fight back against the liberal media. I mean, we're getting a lot of YouTube views now every day. I mean, our channel is growing like crazy and we're going to start getting more views than CNN as a network. So help us in that journey. Let's get started here. Here's what the Marlin Steel CEO Drew Greenblatt said.
We absolutely have had a couple people anxious about the stock market. But again, you know, our goal is that we're going to sell millions more dollars, so we have to hire many more people. If we do that, we're going to hire them at very good jobs, with very good pay, wonderful benefits with the 401k match. True, there's some companies that have been buying T-shirts from Vietnam and China, and they're going to have to pay a couple more bucks for a T-shirt. And then the American consumer is going to have to pay more for a T-shirt. That's obviously not pleasant for those American consumers. But I think there's going to be an overwhelming surge of hiring in America as things level out, as American factories ramp up and people have to hire talent, buy machines. We've invested money in buying new machines because we're so enthusiastic, so optimistic about the future. That's going to start happening throughout the nation, and people are going to be leaning into the future. This is a very exciting time for the American manufacturing worker. We're going to be able to pull people from poverty into the middle class that used to not have an avenue. They had no shot at getting into the middle class. We're going to be able to offer them a shot.
Look at Jake Tapper's face here as this man is sitting here saying that we're doing 401k match, benefits, good pay, we're bringing in millions of dollars of equipment, we're going to be hiring people. Look at Jake Tapper's reaction to this. This is a man who was not expecting for him to say that on live TV. This is an absolute thing of beauty. And you see, the media, whenever they talk about Trump tariffs, they always sit there and just only tell you the bad things. Again, they're sitting here, literally there are some people out there who are saying that an iPhone is going to cost $30,000 to the consumer if Trump tariffs China. Give me a break. If you think for a minute that Apple is actually going to raise the price of their iPhone to $3,000, $10,000, or $30,000, you are out of your mind. Okay, first of all, there will be plenty of negotiations that take place before it ever gets to a point to where crazy price hikes are made. But if a company is smart, they are not going to just pass down all of the increases to the consumer. Why? Because the market always dictates what companies do. The consumer votes with their dollar. And do you think for a minute that Apple wants to lose their dominance? Do you think that these other companies want to lose their dominance? Nike, these steel companies? No, they're going to work it out in a fair way. And so maybe there might be some costs that come back to consumers. But as this man says here, it's all going to level out. And that's the problem with the media. And that's what the problem with all these liberals. They are always just so committed to the status quo. They cannot look more than 2 steps down. They can't look more than 1 step ahead of them. All they look at is what's right in front of them. And that's why our country has kicked the can down the road year after year, decade after decade, okay? And and this is why our country has not made a lot of good progress economically, and this is why a fundamental shift had to happen in our country. It absolutely had to. So here's another interview he gave on CBS. Let's take a look at this one.
We're in favor of the tariffs because we make everything in America. Our factories are in Baltimore, Indiana, and Michigan. We use American steel, American workers, and we're leaning in on American manufacturing. We're excited about American manufacturing in the future. You know, we have an amazing safety record. We've gone 2,200 days without a safety incident in our Indiana plant, 1,100 days in our Maryland plant. We really take great care of our employees, and we're competing with countries like China, where they don't have the same kind of focus on their employees. And, we're competing with countries that despoil their environment and they're debasing their currency. It's challenging for the American factory worker to compete with that.
So then, Drew, it sounds like you're saying you support these tariffs from a competition standpoint so that the imports are more expensive. And I'm inferring that means that your products can continue to be sold at the same price without increasing the cost to other businesses or customers. Is that accurate? Are you committing to keeping your prices as they are now?
Right. We need a level playing field. That's all we're asking for. The American worker can compete with any worker in the world. We're very creative. We're very imaginative. We have wonderful ideas on how to improve companies' throughput. You know, we make wire baskets here. We make wire racks here in Baltimore. We make sheet metal fabrications. And we export to 45 countries throughout the world. And it's because we have 7-degreed engineers. They're phenomenal. This is what makes us different. Our challenge is that we're competing against governments like the Chinese government, which has steel mills, and they have steel basket factories, and they're competing with us. And then they subsidize the steel, they subsidize the labor. We don't have those kinds of subsidies. We just want a level playing field. If we have a level playing field, the American worker will win. We have 12 million American factory workers in America. How do we get to 25 million factory workers? That's what we should be thinking about. If we have a fair and level playing field, our American factory workers will thrive and prosper. We can really pull people from poverty, bring them into the middle class. It's so exciting.
And that is why we support these tariffs. Okay, we are bringing back the middle class, and here is one of the best speeches that I've ever. I guess you could say a mini monologue, a 2-minute monologue from this woman here, Batia Ungar Sargon. She's been going viral on Twitter over the last many months, and she's already been a huge prominent figure on Twitter and in politics in general, but considers herself a MAGA lefty, and when she talks about the middle class, you can see her passion come through unlike anyone else, and you just literally every single second that she talks, she is mesmerizing. You need to see this, and she sums it up absolutely perfectly when talking about the middle class, when talking about the hardworking American people that voted for President Trump and voted for this. Take a look.
Our economic policy for the last 60 years was put in place by people who are too lazy to get out from behind their laptops. And so they imagine that nobody would want to work in a factory because they would rather die than work in a factory. They would rather die than watch their own children, by the way, or clean their own toilets. So they imagine that no one would want to do these things. And so they shipped manufacturing overseas and imported a slave caste to do all of the service industry jobs. And then they just go out there and insult the millions of Americans who are employed in these actual industries, the millions of Americans who remember their grandparents having a decent living wage and the American dream while working at a meatpacking plant, because that was the job to have back in the day. So it's so disgusting. And then they sit there on Twitter and say, does anybody really want to work in manufacturing? From their $2 million homes that they were able to purchase, Michael, because they, through their policy, shoved the working class out of competition for homes, for an education, and for healthcare, right? So the top 10% now controls over 60% of our GDP. They are not just like the ideal consumer now for the most important things, the most central components of the American dream: housing, healthcare, education, retirement. They are the only consumers now who can afford those things. So the price for those items is tagged to their incomes. You know, doctors used to marry nurses and lawyers used to marry secretaries, and now doctors marry doctors and lawyers marry lawyers, and they buy up real estate, and real estate is now pegged to their, you know, joint $2 million income, which means that their cleaning lady has to commute 2 hours to get to them because she could never dream of even renting in their neighborhood. And then they have the chutzpah to say, well, who would ever want to do the job of being a cleaning lady? You know, the majority of cleaning ladies in America are American citizens. How dare you sneer at people who work 10 times harder than you and have to work 2 jobs because of the economy you made in the name of this, like, you know, higher value of globalization.
And this is why President Trump is fighting for the working class. You know, the Democrats and left are all sitting here saying the stock market is tanking, the stock market is tanking. And the Trump administration says, look, we're looking out for Main Street, not for Wall Street. We understand that a lot of people have retirements and 401ks, but that does not mean that this is going to be a long-term thing. We want everyone to succeed. We want the middle class to succeed. And in order to do that, these changes had to be made. So if you support the middle class, please make sure to give a thumbs up on this video. Comment below with what you think about everything going on, and I will be talking to you very soon.